I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda. So we've got Greening the Green, Public Spaces and the Greening Strategy, and invite Ricardo from AR Urbanism to share his slides and come and tell us about it, please.
Thank you, Sarah, and good evening. I hope you all had a healthy start of the year. Can I just check quickly that you see my screen correctly?
Yes, we can, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thanks for having me tonight. As you may remember from the previous presentation, I am coordinating a team of experts in various disciplines that are supporting the District Council in the preparation of a concept master plan for the local centre and the employment zone that you can see on this slide. So is the area between the green and the bus station, the guided bus station to the north. Zooming in a bit more, the area is split in two parts: the local centre to the south that you see in the pale pink, and in pale purple you see the employment zone. There is a gap between the existing car park of the bus, if you like, the bus interchange and the site, because it's allocated to the potential expansion of the parking. And the site is bordered by the existing housing that has already been delivered. In terms of the site, as you know, there are fields effectively at the moment, and there is some level of vegetation. It's not super well established, but it has some ecological value. It runs diagonally across the site. For the rest, I think it's important to highlight that there are important formal and informal pedestrian connections that allow the connectivity, the links between the public transport hub and the rest of the development. In terms of the concept for the master plan, we have been trying to build on these existing diagonal connections and try to link the existing green with the park and ride parking, but at the same time also enable the existing connection that link the park and ride to the residential area to the south. You may also notice this area to the north of the site, which is effectively a retention pond that deals with the runoff, water runoff from the car parking. So maybe in the future that could become a proper public amenity, and we are trying to build a green connection that link these to the development, but it may not be fully accessible for obvious reasons. This is something probably for the future. So what we've been doing over the past months, since appointment that was in May, we've been listening and talking to you at a series of events, and I think it was very strong, the message that we need to build around the healthy new town credential of Northstowe. So what we did is gave priority to the public realm. So we started from the space between the buildings rather than the building themselves. So I'd like to show to you this conceptual diagram, which shows potential development plots and the creation of a green linear park, effectively between the green that you see here on the bottom left corner and the park and ride to the north. And with the idea of linking something that brings together, is a bit of the glue of the different areas that will be delivered over time, starting from the south, because we know that it's probably the most urgent thing is to provide community facilities, and then moving to the north when you enter the employment zone. As I said before, we see the employment zone as something that is integrated within the local center and should support each other. So for instance, you have a better place if it's not just a campus that is alien to what's happening around, but the campus provide opportunity for employment to the local residents. At the same time, the local center can provide a basic facility that's increasing probably the lettability of the place. So think about nursery, gym, a coffee place, and basic facility that we use all, on a daily basis. You see on the top the potential recycle center location, which could be there, but it could also not be. So we are trying to design something that is flexible and can adapt depending on what happens in the next stages. I am focusing on the public realm. As I said, the approach is to maximize green throughout the development and trying to pay attention to the biodiversity, air quality, heat reduction, be water adaptive, and also support healthy, active living. So there are a series. This is a very, very schematic diagram, and it shows a series of measures, or if you like, conceptual elements for the green structure of the master plan. You see, number one, the green linear park that brings the development together, but there will be opportunities also for green in the streets. We see Stirling roads at the moment as a potential, having quite a big potential being upgraded for pedestrians, so it tried to incorporate green elements and even a potential partial pedestrianization of the area. We also see the opportunity to build on the existing green edge that surrounds the site, especially to the west and to the north. And also there are opportunities within the plots, because regardless of what happens there in terms of the shape of the building, there is an opportunity to have internal green cores, as well as maximize the opportunity to use green on buildings and on every street within the development, of course, the possibility to introduce rain gardens. Now, I mask deliberately in pink the buildings that we are drafting, because we haven't yet finalized the buildings. We're waiting from quite a lot of feedback that relates to feasibility. But in fairness, it's almost not super relevant, in the sense that we need to provide, because of the time for the delivery of this plan, we need to provide a certain level of flexibility. So we try to size these pink plot in a way that can take different layouts, but still we are trying to deliver a public realm that doesn't change and maintain a very high quality, regardless of how the different buildings come together, which I guess is going to be the topic of the next presentation. So just to give you an idea, I just realized that the quality of this slide is a bit poor. We developed these, by the way, with our landscape architect, Dutch firm called Okra, that have worked a lot also in the UK. So we are thinking of allocating one central pavement within the park, try to maximize the amount of green and reduce the hard surfaces. We show here a precedent image that can give a bit of a flavor of how it would work. The path would snake and try to connect the building. So rather than being at the back of the building, actually the green is providing the frontage to this building to maximize activity and try to have overlooking and ensure security and safety. We also think there is an opportunity to provide water feature. It could be a retention pond that gets also some amenity value, and a series of other functions, which cater for different uses and the needs both of the people that work there, but also, of course, for the wider community. So it needs to be something that really serves multiple purposes, and not just this is for the employment and this is for the residents. It should really be blending nicely together. We're also looking at a possibility to introduce pocket spaces for areas of tranquility, some areas that are more dynamic where people just walk through to go, for instance, to the park and rides, and areas where we can accommodate a kiosk for a cafe, and then maybe multifunctional areas as well. If possible, also integrating informal play opportunity, probably intensifying the element that relate to play as you approach the main, as you approach the green to the south. In terms of the green, we call it green strategy, but it's also a blue strategy, because we want to make sure that we capture, store, filter, and reuse water as much as possible. And this can be done both with the building, but also with the space in between the buildings. We started from the existing design code that I'm sure you're familiar with, and we've been looking at different street sections, trying really to bring to life these spaces as the street as place of amenity, so maximizing greening and SUDs. SUDs are sustainable urban drainage systems, so ways to capture, manage, filter water, but also give it a amenity value. So it adds to the placemaking. Where possible, depending on the section of the street, again, we are working at concept level, so we are providing different options for what can happen later, but we try to separate pedestrian and cycling from the carriageway on the main network. We don't have a lot of streets, I admit, but there is a main road that we try to deliver, and a quieter road. And at different points, the section of the street will have slightly different characteristics, because they need to adapt to the buildings or to the park that runs along it. But in any case, we're prioritizing the amount of greenery that buffers the street, that act as a buffer between the streets and the buildings. And again, try to introduce everywhere, including what we call community street, which is still in road, to the north of the green, integrated rain gardens as much as we can. Another cross section, I'm not going to bore you with cross sections. This is the last one, I promise, about the park, the linear park that runs through. And again, I think from this picture is interesting to notice a few things. First of all, that we want really to use the building in an active way, so they help to manage greeneries and water. And then you see actually the proportion between the size of the buildings that we suggest and the section of the park, the width of the park. But again, a place that really helps in terms of, it's not just a connector. As I said, it brings together places, but it's also a place where you can do things, whether it's having, sit down or exercise, or just, just enjoy it, looking even from a window. As part of this approach to the public realm and greening, we're very keen to integrate as many opportunities as possible in terms of biodiversity and nature. The site is a green site, even if it was a golf course in the past, and maybe the ecological value is not super high as you would be in other green location. It still has a very important biodiversity value that we need to recover, I'd say, probably the right word, as part of this development. So what we're going to do is suggest a series of measures that look at biodiversity via intervention to the buildings, green and brown roofs, as well as bugs, hotels, and opportunity for birds, for nesting, and also, of course, try to make the most of water and integrate it, as we said, as an amenity, but also as a value in terms of a valuable asset in terms of biodiversity. I finished, just want to add just a little note to tell you in general where we are. So we have effectively, as you can hopefully see, progressed quite a lot the public realm and the greening strategy. What we're doing at the moment, we're testing potential different layouts for the building. As I said, we try to test different layouts just to make sure that whatever we suggest is strong and robust enough to take any change that would inevitably be needed over time. We don't believe in a master plan or even if it's a concept, as just a fixed picture. We've been in business long enough to know that things do change, and a good master plan needs to be able to absorb that that change. And it can be improved. I'm sure everything can be improved. So we want to leave that level of flexibility, and we're concentrating on the public realm, because I think that is, regardless what happens to the building, that is something that should be prioritized. in response to all the feedback that we had so far in the discussions with you. And with this, I am done more or less in time.
Well done, thanks for that.
Proud.
We have one question that I'd like to put to you. Does this mean, we were talking about the green routes through the enterprise zone. Does this mean the link from the Park and Ride to Stirling Road is being made permanent? And if so, can lights be installed?
In terms of light, for sure, I think we need to make sure that people want to use this place, and if they feel threatened because it's dark or not overlooked, that is probably not a good start. So I think light, we haven't specified lights because it's still concept master plan. We will make recommendation. My personal recommendation is to provide light. They need to be sensible, in the sense that we definitely don't want flat lighting. If we want to be serious about ecology and biodiversity, we need to provide low level lights, but you'll be surprised how much you can do and achieve with low lighting that is uniform and well distributed and well designed. So yes, it needs to be done properly though, not to disturb also the biodiversity. So making people feel safe, but at the same time making animals and plants being happy, I suppose. And in terms of, I see another question in terms of the maintenance and everything else, I think, and the cost for that. I think in specifying the design for this, what we are careful in terms of making recommendation is to make sure that is something that can look after itself as much as possible. Of course, if you want quality, there is an element of maintenance that needs to be required. We are discussing with Peter Campbell's team, Adele, the different delivery models, and I think is something that is being looked at, how to embed the maintenance of the place. Just one quick note about that, because this is going to be, the chunk of this needs to be an employment zone. If you want to attract people to open their business there, it needs to be of good quality. So there is an incentive for whoever deliver the place that the quality is high, and probably there is an element of the occupiers contributing to that, rather than be a cost that is sustained just by the residents. So I think there are different options there, and the team is looking carefully on trying to minimize the impact, but still delivering quality.
Great, thanks, Riccardo. So just to add to the original question on the link from to Park and Ride from Stirling Road, that is a temporary route. So it won't be the permanent route, even though obviously the map kind of shows a route up to the P&R, up to the Park and Ride. So Riccardo was talking about the permanent route that will be put in as part of the local central employment zone, and obviously that will be lit, as Riccardo mentioned, but the current route that everyone uses now is temporary.
And it will be make it formalized and looked after in a permanent way. Yes.
Yes. Yes. And then on the charges, obviously we have to remember that this is an enterprise zone and employment zone, so there will be commercial tenants on this land as well. So not all of the maintenance costs will be borne by residents, if any. So the business model itself is not yet formed, but we have to remember that there will be other people occupying and using this land. Not going to be all about residents having to support the ongoing maintenance. Okay, thanks very much for that, Riccardo.